Welcome to CSEC Biology TCP. I am Mr. Wilson from the TCP Academy. You can find us online at tcp-academy.teachable.com. Today we're going to be looking at a very close relationship between organisms of different species. And this is pretty much referred to as symbiosis. So symbiosis is a close relationship between organisms of different species. The relationship is important to sustain an ecosystem. The relationship may be viewed as parasitism, commensalism, or mutualism. These are the three groups that are looked at the CXC level, and we're covering content for CSEC biology. Now, here we have a photo, and it is showing pretty much a symbiotic relationship. This is between the sea anemone and the clownfish. We'll talk more about it as we move through this lesson. Parasitism. What's it? We're seeing the mosquito there. It refers to a relationship in which a parasite benefits from another organism, the host, while causing the host harm. We could look at the relationship, as it were, with the plasmodium in human causing malaria. Now, the thing about a parasite could be an endoparasite or ectoparasite. An endoparasite is usually found within the host. An ectoparasite is usually found on the outside of the host. So the thing here is that the plasmodium is pretty much carried around by what we refer to as a vector. And a vector is that middle organism that usually is not affected by the disease or the pathogen that it transmits. Now, here the mosquito would be carrying around the plasmodium, not this mosquito on screen. And this plasmodium would have affected individuals, making them sick. It's important here to note that the CXC syllabus wants you to be able to identify the parasite and the host. And it's also very important for you to be able to tell about what makes it a parasite versus what makes it the host. We could look at the ticks and lice living on mammals. So here, the parasites, ticks, and hosts, and they're living on mammal. That type of a relationship needs to be identified for your exam. Last year, many students differed on their CXC exams as they were afraid of failure due to their level of readiness. This year, Mr. Wilson and his experienced team from tcpacademy.teachable.com is here to help you get exam ready. Subscribe for free to tcp-academy.teachable.com. We offer courses in CXC Biology, HSB, English Language, and many others. There are several offerings to each course. Enroll in one today. Tapeworm living inside human. Now that's an endoparasite, while the ticks and lice on a mammal could be a dog, a cattle, human, etc. That is pretty much a ectoparasite. Love vine living on plant is another parasitic relationship, and we're going to be looking at these individually to establish some more facts. Ticks and lice, they suck the blood from their host, and the host is usually a mammal, causing damage to the skin, weakness to the animal, and may even cause anemia, as these organisms are feeding on the blood of their host. The tapeworm absorbs nutrients from the intestine of the host, leading to loss of appetite, weight loss, nausea, and abdominal pain. Now, this is usually carried around, or the vector here is, of course, the pig. Plasmodium causes malaria in human, and this malaria will cause high recurring fever, and it is caused by the Anopheles mosquito, which is, of course, the vector here. The dodderweed, the only plant on the list here, it absorbs nutrient from the phloem, leading to stunted growth in the plant and sometimes death of its host. How does it do this? It attaches what seems to be its root to the plant stem and pretty much getting inside to attach itself to the phloem, thus taking up that nutrient, depriving the plant of the nutrient, which can, of course, lead to death. Here we have a ticks, which is a ectoparasite, the tapeworm, endoparasite, and of course, the love bush, which is called love bush, dodderweed, strongovine, parasitic plant. This orange looking vine is definitely the plant that we really don't want to have on the useful plant that we have around the home. Mutualism. Both organisms benefit from their relationship. Interesting. Let's look again at parasitism. Now, parasitism, here the parasite is benefiting and the host is being harmed. The question is, a baby suckling or feeding from its mom, the mom would not have eaten, but milk is still being produced. The baby suckling from the mom, is this a parasitic relationship? No, it is not. Remember, the fundamental thing about a symbiotic relationship, it is that it is between organisms of different species. It is between organisms of different species. So with mutualism, both organisms benefits from this relationship. The ticks on the cattle is removed by the egret. The egret gets food while the cattle gets comfort. The sea anemone, as is seen in the picture, and the clownfish, they share a mutualistic relationship. As the anemone is getting food from the relationship, while the clownfish is getting protection from the relationship. As it were, for the example with the cattle and the egret, one has to be careful because in some cases, the relationship between the cattle and the egret is commensal, or where the egret is feeding directly from the cattle, removing those ticks. That is indeed a mutualistic relationship. Then we have the coral polyps and the green algae, referred to as zooxanthellae, where the algae is getting pretty much carbon dioxide from the coral, and the coral is getting oxygen from the algae. Now, there's also more relationship there as to the food that the coral would have received, and of course, the living space that the green algae would have received from the relationship. This is a very, very important relationship because it helps us to determine the effect of temperature on our water. As the water temperature increases, it affects this relationship, leading to the algae dying, leaving the corals white and eventually dead. And this, of course, is a condition we refer to as coral bleaching. Here we are looking at a mutualistic relationship between the horse and the egret. So the egret here is feeding directly from the horse and not pretty much moving around with the horse or behind the horse to get the food. Now, we could look at the nitrogen fixing bacteria in the root nodules of leguminous crop. And here, remember, you must know both organisms that are a part of a mutualistic relationship. The bacteria makes nitrogen compound from the soil and air, which the plant uses to make protein, while the bacteria gets food from the interaction and indeed a place to live and protection. Who wouldn't like this interaction? Then there is the termite, which tends to eat our wood, but it has this close relationship with a protozoa called trichonympha. Now, the trichonympha lives in the gut of a termite and it digests cellulose. The termite is not able to digest cellulose. It's actually the protozoa trichonympha that lives in the gut of a termite that does this type of a digestion. Now, this is beneficial to the termite as the termite is pretty much getting digested food while the protozoan has a continued supply of food and protection, as the termite will pretty much cut this wood for digestion. So the protozoan does not need to go anywhere for food. It is coming to it. All that it needs to do is just digest the food as it comes. Can you imagine you are home and all that you need to do is to be home and grocery will come? And all you need to do is to just chew, eat, swallow, and all is fine. You don't have to work. Well, that is what the protozoan is enjoying. Then there is the commensal relationship. And here we're looking at the egret and a mammal. Now, if you observe here, the egret is not on the mammal, but it's very close to the mammal. As this mammal moves through the grass, it disturbs the grass, and organisms that are in the grass will try to move. And as they move, they become meal for the egret. So the egret gets to eat the grasshopper that's moving, or the insects that are moving in the grass without doing much work than to just walk beside the mammal. Commensalism refers to a relationship in which one organism benefits and the other are not affected. So here the cattle is not affected by the interaction. However, the egret is benefiting as it is getting food. Then there is a hermit crab using the shell of dead snail. The crab here getting the shell, and in no way is the snail affected because the snake is already dead. Egret, following behind a grazing animal, as we're seeing here, feeds pretty much on the insects, getting food while the animal or the other animal is not affected. This is another interesting commensal relationship as we're looking at plants. So here we have a epiphyte, a group of referred to as epiphyte. We have the orchid and we have Bromelia. Now, on a tree, these would pretty much perch very, very high on a limb, and they would have a ready supply or ready access to sunlight. They'll be out of the way of predators or herbivore, one might say, so they are able to grow and live without much environmental resistance from herbivores. The remora and the shark, the remora gets scraps of food from the shark while it hitches a ride on the shark around and removes this food. Now, this does not affect the shark in any way, but the remora indeed is benefiting from the food remains from the shark. And to top things off, we place in this video two plants. Venus flytrap, which is a carnivorous plant. You will find this plant being talked about when we look at tropism. And we have the pitcher's trumpet, which has a very slippery surface and allows organism to slide down into the trumpet. We usually have some sap. The organism dies and the trumpet will absorb the nutrient. While the Venus flytrap will just close to capture that organism, then it will pretty much take the sap from the organism. This is not for your CXC syllabus, but one might need to talk about Amensalism. This relationship refers to a relationship in which an organism is hurt or destroyed while the other is unaffected by the interaction. So here we're seeing the elephant moving about in the grass, pretty much not a bother to the elephant, but the grass is being trampled. We could look at penicillin and bacteria. The penicillin pretty much damages the bacteria, but the penicillin itself is not harmed are not affected in any way. Penicillin here coming from a fungus. I'm Mr. Wilson from the TCP Academy. You can find us online at tcp-academy.teachable.com. You can also find us on YouTube at CSEC Biology TCP. Last year, many students differed on their CXC exams as they were afraid of failure due to their level of readiness. This year, Mr. Wilson and his experienced team from tcpacademy.teachable.com is here to help you get exam ready. Subscribe for free to tcp-academy.teachable.com. We offer courses in CXC Biology, HSB, English Language, and many others. There are several offerings to each course. Enroll in one today.